From homesteading to cooking to heirloom seed saving to prepping, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Today we are continuing our series on casual and complementary prepping, and we are continuing to answer the question, how much food do you need for a year? Well, this time we're going to concentrate on pigs and how they would fit in to a comprehensive homestead plan. So if you look at previous videos, and I'll try and put a link up here to those, if you look at our previous videos, we learned that 2 pigs are going to give you about 145 calories worth of usable meat. Now, when I say usable meat, or 145 pounds worth of usable meat, that's a 300-pound pig. And when I say usable meat, I'm not counting the bone and stuff, because really the bones don't add any calories to your diet, so I don't include those. I only include that completely deboned meat from the pig. It's about 145 pounds. And for that, with 2 pigs, you wind up with 153,120 calories. But that's not the end-all be-all of pigs. If you remember, as we looked at it, pig calories came from meat, but the most pig calories came from lard. So if we look at that, each one of those pigs, it's going to give us about 45 pounds worth of lard. Paul called it a stand. It was in a metal can, called it a stand of lard. Each one of them is going to give us about 45 pounds worth of lard, so that's 90 pounds worth of lard. And if you multiply that out, that comes out to about 366,930 calories. For a grand total of 2 pigs, 520,050 calories. Now, those calories are about a third of what it's required for two people to last for a year. About a third. 2 pigs are going to provide you with enough calories. Now, you got to remember, you're going to do all your cooking in lard, to get these calories. You're going to do all your cooking in lard. You're going to add lard to your biscuits. You're going to add lard to, okay? Does that make sense? So let's take a look and see some of the things that you have to get started with pigs, because we're going to talk about what it costs you for that first year. There are all sorts of breeds of pigs out there, from the little pink ones like these here, to the black Tamworth looking pigs, to Durocs. There's a whole bunch of different breeds, and there are even some of these little specialty breeds like American Guinea Hogs, and they're all going to cost you somewhere around $60. Now, once you buy your feeder pigs, you've got to get them little babies home. So you can either haul them in the back of your pickup truck. Some people haul them in their car or in a dog carrier or however, but you've got to get them home. But once they get big, you've got to be able to transport these things. You're going to have to come up with a trailer, because I've got a truck with cattle panels, but that's still tough to get a grown pig in there. So something like this trailer would work well. Now, once you've got these little porkers home, before they even get there, you've got to have a fence set up. So be certain to have a fence. Now, if you want to run them behind an electric fence like you want to pasture them, you still have to have a fence like this made out of cattle panels or pig panels so that they learn to use the fence. But once you've got the fencing taken care of, you have to house them. You have to give them somewhere to stay. It could be something as simple as a cattle panel shed, but they really need something that they can lay down in and be comfortable and out of the wind and the weather. So you need something with at least 3 sides on it. Now, feeders are not a necessity. You can have these feeders like the one here, and or you can make one like this one. But you don't have to have a feeder. You can feed them out of a pan. It doesn't matter. But you just have to have something ready, be prepared to let those babies eat. Even a half of an old 55-gallon drum works pretty well. Paul even used a trough, much like the one you see right here. Now, once you've got their feed taken care of, you've got to take care of their water.
Now they're going to need a lot of water. Pigs drink a lot of water, so a barrel with a pig nipple is a great way to do it. You can actually take water and feed them, but you know they're going to mess it up. Now an automatic waterer like the one here will work out real well. Then you have to worry about feed. Feed is the most expensive part of raising pigs. You can raise corn and feed it to them, but they need a good specialized feed grower to develop the pig that you need.
All right, you see some of the things that you're going to have to come up with in order to start your piggery. Now, for me, let's look at our first topic, getting the pigs. You've got to select a breed that you want to get. There's everything from the little lard hogs, the American guinea hogs. You could even raise potbelly pigs. Yes, they eat just fine. You could even raise potbelly pigs if you had smaller space. So what you want to do is concentrate on the type of pig you want to raise and how many calories you want to get. Well, for me, I'm going to probably raise something like a Tamworth, maybe a red wattle hog. Once they're grown, they're called hogs, not pigs. I've got a tendency to call everything a pig, but the truth is, when they're grown, they're called hogs. And when they're babies, little hogs, they're called pigs or piglets. And when they're just born, when they're just up to getting weaned, they're called shoals. So just to clear that up, you're going to have to figure out what kind of pig you want. And this video is not about deciding what the breeds should be. So that's one of the things that you're going to have to decide. Now, you've picked the boys and girls, or have you? Have you decided what you want to do? Well, I don't ever recommend the first time pig raiser to decide that they're going to breed pigs. You need to take some time and get used to raising pigs before you ever try to breed them. You know, pigs are they're a tough breed to handle. They're a big animal. They'll run over you. They'll run over your fences. You know, your fences got to be pig stout. Okay? Your fences have to be pig stout. Now, most of the time, if you teach your pigs right, I will get to that. I'm going to keep going with what we're looking at. Let's talk about what kind of pig you want after you've got it, after you've decided the breed. And I recommend that you, when you do a breed, get a breed that's close to you. Okay, so that you can take and ask the farmer that you got the pigs from in case there's something comes up. And, you know, let him know that you're new at this, you're just learning, and you know, you may need to ask him some questions. Most of them be tickled to death to answer a question or two for you, because they know you're going to come back and buy pigs again. So you start off with these, what we call feeder pigs. They're a pig that you're going to raise for about 8 months, and you're going to feed them till they're big enough to eat. So let's talk about that for a minute. Do you want girls or do you want boys? Well, my recommendation is you don't get boys unless the breeder has already castrated them, neutered them, whatever you want to call it. They no longer have their little boy parts. That way, you don't have to worry about them being aggressive. And sometimes there's this thing called boar taint. Although I've never tasted it, we've raised pigs since since before I was born. Raised pigs, and we've eaten hogs that still had their nads and hogs that didn't. So I've never tasted boar taint. So that's something that's totally new to me. Some people say it's there. I don't know. But my recommendation is get them already fixed, or get gilts, get girls that haven't had a litter. That's called a gilt. Get girls, because you know they're not sexually active, sexually mature till about 6 months. So by that time you're getting ready to put them in the freezer anyway. So that's my recommendation, and always get 2. Pigs are social animals. They're really, really smart, and if you just get one, it'll get bored and will break out. He'll try your fences all the time. If there's 2 of them, they can be together and wrestle and push and do piggy things, and they're generally okay. Okay, you've got your little piggies. You've brought them home. Well, you're going to bring them home. But before you even go get them, you've got to build a lot. Now, when I was a kid, Paul raised his pigs in a 16 by 16 wooden enclosure. It was just a wooden enclosure with a roof on it so the sun didn't shine on them, because pigs like shade. It was open at the top, but there was just 16 by 16. And he kept 2 hogs in there their entire life. Can you imagine that? You know, I look back at it as a kid and all the way up to being a young adult. And he grew those hogs that way. Kind of cruel. So you need to come to grips with how you're going to house your pigs. Now, for me, what I want to do, you might build a wooden structure. That's fine. I don't know. I just feel like it's mean anymore. But I want to make take pig panels. Pig panels are 32 inches tall, 16 feet long, and they've got smaller holes in them so your young pigs don't get out. And you can put those in a lot and use T-posts, or you can use wooden posts to fasten them in. I'd say you use 6 panels so that it's 32 feet wide and 16 feet deep. That gives you plenty of room to build you a little pig house where they can get in out of the weather and out of the cold and get in hay and straw and do the things, stay warm. So you need to build this pig fence. Now also, even, you know, a lot of people want to pasture their pigs, which I want to do that too on this homestead. I want to pasture my pigs. So you have to get them ready for electric fence. You can do the electric fence inside of this 32 by 32 enclosure, 32 by 16 enclosure, to get them used to the electric fence so that you can move them out of that. But to begin with, if a pig hits electric fence, he drives forward to start with, because pigs are kind of hard-headed, and he'll push forward, so there needs to be a fence there to stop him so that he stays on that electric fence for a little bit, and he'll get the idea that he shouldn't touch that. But it'll take him 2 or 3 or 4 days to get that idea. Now, in order to make this pig lot, you would need 6 pig panels, and they cost about $24 a piece. So you get these 6 pig panels and you fix them up, 24 bucks a piece, and then the posts that go around them. Now, you might have locust trees or whatever on your homestead and you want to use wooden posts. I just calculated it using T-posts. So you can make this thing for somewhere in the neighborhood of $300. Okay? Now that, you can use it from year to year. So this is an investment in infrastructure, not just an investment that's going to be this year and gone. Okay? This is an infrastructure investment, and you can use it from year to year. So it's about $300 to build your first pig enclosure. Now, you could start with that. You don't have to have the rest designed out yet. You can design it as the pigs grow and expand with them. Now, a lot of people like to do electric fence. So if you're going to do electric fence, you start out with it inside your little fence, your cattle panel fence, or your pig panel fence. You start off like that. Then, when you turn around, you can extend your electric out, and you no longer need the pig panels. The pigs know what the hogs know, what the electric fence is, and they won't stray over it much. And you can keep them in an electric fenced-in area. But before I finish that, let's talk about predators. Predators will come after your little pigs, especially dogs, big dogs. Now, we have a problem with dogs around here, so when your pigs are small, you will have to keep them in that enclosure. Now, big dog can jump a pig panel. They probably wouldn't jump a cattle panel, but they could probably jump a pig panel. So keep that in mind. You might want to put a little electric fence on the outside of your pig lot. That would kind of deter dogs. They would come first sniffing around, and then get a zap of that electric fence, and that might keep them from trying to get in the lot with your Schultz, because big dogs will kill them if they can get to them. So that's just a thought. Now, your electric fence, you've got your electric fence around, and the cost of that electric fence is going to be about $200, and that includes enough fence to enclose a big area outside of this. So the $200 is just an additional thing, and you can enclose a much larger area with it. So $200, that includes the charger and the wire. And you can get the wire and put it on a roller, and where you can move it, and you can move your pigs around if you want to do that. I don't plan on doing that, but you know, that's just something that you can do. One thing that pigs is tough on their environment in their lot. So you've got to get a shelter that they're not going to knock down. It's got to be a pretty substantial shelter. But you can build a pretty good shelter using free pallets. It doesn't have to last long. Think about it like this. You're going to start your pigs, which I recommend you start them in the spring, March. And by November, you're going to put them into freezer camp. So if you do that, and you've got these pigs and you've got them moved over into freezer camp, by November, their shelter doesn't have to be that substantial, but they have to have shade. Pigs are going to have shade no matter what else you do. Now, you can build this shelter for, I don't know, $200 would be a sufficient shelter to house 2 pigs and give them somewhere to get and put straw and stuff where they can go and get out of the weather. $200 would probably do a pretty good little shelter. But you're also going to have to supply them with shade. If you don't have a tree around where your pigs are going to be that can be shade for them, or a structure or something that they're going to be up against that's going to be shade for them, then you're going to have to provide them with some shade. It's a little tough on pigs out in that beaten sun. Depending on where you're at, the sun's worse than other places. So you're going to have to provide them with a little shade. And I'm going to just assume that you use a tree, so it keeps the the initial cost down some. But $200 for a shelter, you might even be able to do $200 for a shelter and put them up a tarp shade. Okay? We've got fencing. We've got shelter. We've got shade. We got to talk about water. Well, pigs got to have a lot of water. A 55-gallon drum with a pig nipple on it, like I showed you in the other part of the video, you can fill that thing up, and they've got water pretty continuous. You want to put that in the shade. You don't want that water to be hot all the time, or else your pigs ain't going to want to drink it. So put it in the shade, and things will be a lot better. Those will last for 2 pigs 5 or 6, 7 days, and then you refill it. You can always put a little Clorox in the water to make it so that it's not growing out algae and stuff all the time. So with that, one of those barrels around here costs us somewhere in the neighborhood of $10, and then the pig nipples are about $6 a piece, and you can put 2 on it if you want to, or you can put a pipe out there that's got 2 or 3 and keep the barrel out of their pen. You know, you could do it that way too. So we're talking about I don't know, $10, $15, $20. So that's not a big expense. So now you've got the water, the shelter, the shade, and the fencing covered. Now it's time to talk about feed. Okay, time to talk about feed. If we look at raising a pig for 8 months, 6 to 8 months, depending, you know, when they get 300, 350 pounds, you want to put them in freezer camp. Anything above that, and you're just adding, my grandfather, when he raised pigs, it was nothing to have a 600-pound hog or a 500-pound hog. So, but that costs you extra feed as it goes. So 300, 350 pounds, 400 pounds. Okay, you want your pig to have some fat on it because you want to put that lard away because that's worth more than the pig meat. So what does it take to get a pig ready to slaughter? Well, it takes about 1,000 pounds worth of feed in order to get them ready to go to slaughter. Now, you can buy the feed in 50-pound bags and pay $15 a bag, but I recommend that you buy it from a feed mill, and they'll sell it to you by the 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds to a ton at a time. 2 pigs to get them up to weight to go to the butcher is going to cost you somewhere in the neighborhood. And when I say go to the butcher, I mean to put them in freezer camp. Now, going to the butcher adds an extra cost. Okay, they charge you a cost to slaughter them, they charge you a cost to dispose of the waste, and then they charge you a cost per pound to cut them up. If you do all that yourself, you don't have those costs. So I'm going to assume that you're going to do all that yourself, and it doesn't matter about your cuts of meat. Hog meat is hog meat. Okay? Let me say it again. Hog meat is hog meat. If you don't want pork chops, get tenderloins. Tenderloins are the meat out of the pork chop. If you got tenderloins, you don't get pork chops. Okay? Just straightforward thing. So it takes 1,000 pounds of feed per hog. So you need a ton to raise these 2 hogs. Now that cost is going to be, if you buy 15-pound bags or 50-pound bags at $15 a piece, going to be about $600. If you buy by the ton or by the half ton, which is the way I would do it, and store it in 55-gallon barrels and feed it to them each day, then you can save a little bit of money, maybe about between $300 and $500. Okay, save you a little bit, won't save you a whole lot over the packaged stuff, but you need a reputable meal that puts all the vitamins and minerals in there that those hogs are going to need. When they're little, you start with 16% grower. When they get 150 pounds, you can switch to 12% and start feeding corn too. Corn will help them add weight, and I like the last 2 weeks that they're going to be around, I put them on a heavy corn diet. It's what Pa did. It's the way I like them. It's the way it makes the meat sweeter. So the cost for the feed is going to be between $300 and $600 to get them up to weight. Vaccinations. Do you want to vaccinate your pigs? That's totally up to you. Pigs have, little pigs sometimes need certain vaccinations. Now, your breeder may go ahead and vaccinate his pigs when he weans them. Some breeders do, some breeders don't. If it's a backyard breeder, he probably doesn't. We never vaccinated our pigs when I was a kid, all the way up till I was in my 20s. We never vaccinated a pig. But today they do vaccinate them for Bordetella and APP and some of the other things. We never did that, but that may be more prevalent these days than it used to be. So you might want to consider vaccinating them, but that's something that's totally up to you. But you do have to worm them. They're going to get parasites. They might have some external parasites too, some lice and different things. So you're going to have to take care of the parasites. So the total cost, vaccination, parasites, medicine, maybe an antibiotic if they need it. If we did all that, we're looking somewhere at a total cost of, I don't know, $100 at the most. Now let's look at the overall cost to raise 2 pigs. Let's look at the overall cost to raise 2 pigs, 2 hogs. Get them up to about 350 to 400 pounds and ready to go to freezer camp. Now, this does not take into account if you send them to the butcher. For example, our butcher has a $30 kill fee, a $30 waste fee, and he has a 30 cents a pound fee to butcher it up. So it winds up costing about $200 to get a hog butchered at our butcher. So it's going to add to the cost of your pig. You got to think about that. Now, if you're raising pigs and think that you're going to get them cheaper than they sell them at the grocery store, you're probably betting on the wrong thing. But this is about being sustainable. So you're going to feed your pigs your scraps. You're going to feed them out of your garden. You're going to raise corn for them. But you're also going to buy feed for them in a SHTF. You can't buy feed for them, so you're going to have to raise enough food to feed them, okay? Just saying. Now, what does it cost to get these pigs going and ready to go to the butcher? Well, first off, you have to buy 2 Schultz. And Schultz around here, a 40-pound Schultz, 30-pound Schultz, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $60. So always get 2 because they're social animals, and it's just mean to make them be alone all the time. So get 2, $100, $120. Then you got to do a fenced-in lot. Well, that's $300 for your fencing. Then, if you're going to have them get out, you've got electric fencing. So you got to add electric fencing to that, another $200. Then you have to provide them with some kind of shelter and shade. Again, you could get by with about $200. Feed is going to be the big one. It's going to be somewhere between $300 and $600. If we split the difference there and say $450 for their feed for the 8 months that they're going to be here, then that ought to be close. I recommend you go to a feed mill to get your feed. Some people don't have that option. They're going to have to buy 50-pound bags. It's going to cost them more. Okay? That's just the thing that's going to happen. Now, your vet costs, stuff for parasites and stuff for vaccinations if you're going to do that, and that kind of thing is going to be about $100. So your overall cost to get started with these pigs is $1,370. That's to raise them up to get them ready to go to freezer camp. Now, if you look at recurring costs, once you have your infrastructure, you'll just have some minor maintenance things to that as time goes on. You'll have maintenance things. You might have to replace a pig panel. You might have to bury a pig panel. Okay? You might just have some replacement costs. But there are some of these costs that are recurring. The recurring costs are the purchase price of the Schultz. I've seen them go for $40, I've seen them go for $60, and I've seen them go for $80. So anywhere in between there, that's why I picked the $60 average for around here. Where you're at, I don't know what it's going to be. So the Schultz are a recurring cost. Every year you buy Schultz, and you're going to have to raise them. But that means that you have to depend on somebody else to be the husbandryman of them. So, just saying, you might eventually get to where you can do that, but remember you have to feed them through the winter, and that's another expense. So, that's a recurring cost. The feed and the vet supplies are recurring costs. Now, the vet supplies could actually be more if you wind up having to take one of these babies to the vet, because finding a vet that'll come to you, it's gonna be tough. If you've already got a trailer that's enclosed, you know, that's not going to be an initial investment for you. But if you don't, you're going to have to invest in that too. But I'm not going to include that in our list. I'm going to say that you haul them in your pickup truck that you already had. But so now the cost of the Schultz, the feed, the meds, $670 is what you're looking at in recurring costs each year. So $1,370 was the cost for just getting started, but the recurring cost for next year, after you've already started the year, is only going to be $670, which is a far cry. Okay, that's the cost to get started with pigs. If you like this homestead and do-it-yourself kind of stuff, be be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homestead and prepping kind of stuff every week, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. We upload every Sunday, and if you hit the bell, it will notify you when we upload a video. Like I said, we upload every Sunday. So now, with that being said, it's time for me to get on to the next thing.